Hi, welcome to Astrobabble. I'm Donna from Donna Astrology,
And I'm Lynda from Scullywag Astrology.
and we babble about astrology. And typically, we're going to be going through the new moon in Cancer. And for the new moons and the full moons, we go through the mansions and we go through a crystal for the episode. So hopefully you'll enjoy it, share and like it.
And then afterwards, we go through the aspects, the major aspects happening between whichever new or full moon we're doing and the next major lunation.
Perfect.
So if this is your first time here, we'd be delighted if you liked or subscribed and enjoy the episode. We'll dig right into it.
All right. While you're getting charts, this new moon is going to happen on the 8th moon mansion, and that is going to be just about 7 degrees of Cancer. And that mansion is good for giving medicine. It's good for water travel, adornments. If it rains, it's going to be a useful rain. It's good if you travel early, but if you end up in prison, it's probably not a good thing. You're probably going to be there for a longer time than you had anticipated.
Oh, wow. Interesting. Well, here's the chart for the new moon, which will be on the 28th of June. It's at 7 degrees and 22 minutes of Cancer. And what do we have? We have Jupiter at 7 degrees of Aries, squaring it at the time. So that's squaring it by degree. I believe Jupiter is just about ready to retrograde as well. I'm not sure of the exact dates, but I know it's going to station at 8 degrees, I believe. Or maybe that's where it's going to retrograde back to. Maybe it's later. I'm not 100% sure. But actually, I'm going to have a quick peek.
Better to find out, because if we know what it's doing, we'll have time to prepare.
Yeah, 28th of July, so next month, a month after this full moon, it is going to station
Retrograde.
Yeah, like only a degree away from that. So it must be slowing down at the moment. It must be moving a lot slower than it usually does. That's interesting though, because it's going to retrograde, and then when it gets back, when it stations direct again and then gets back to that 7 degrees, 8 degrees to get out of the shadow period, though I don't usually look at the shadow period so much for the outer planets, because I mean they're retrograde for so long every year, but it will be interesting to see when it travels over that degree direct again. So and this is a new moon, so it's about new beginnings, planting seeds, and yeah, new plans. So that Jupiter makes me wonder if some of these plans are not going to be based on reality though. And Jupiter retrograde can be very much about losing that enthusiasm or not feeling lucky, you know, because Jupiter is associated with luck. And with Jupiter retrograde, it can seem like, you know, your luck's kind of deserted you somewhat. You might lack enthusiasm or optimism regarding subjects. So just interesting. Like I said, this square here, which is challenges or tension. So perhaps trying to start new things and kind of running up against roadblocks, because I mean, Saturn is also retrograde at this time. Maybe just, yeah, just going to have to stick it out.
Well, maybe that Venus at 7 degrees of Gemini might help it a little bit. We can cross our fingers. There's always usually some kind of thing to help.
Yeah.
If you look hard enough.
Only problem is that because they're in a sign that's right side by side, it's like they kind of can't see each other.
Right.
So
I was hoping the Venus is going to help the Jupiter, not necessarily the moon.
Oh, I get you. Oh, actually, that's a good point, because there'll be a sextile. I was going to say with the new moon, with that Venus being semi-sextile to it, only 30 degrees away, that the new moon wouldn't be able to see it, but it could be help that you can't see, like almost anonymous, or that you didn't expect help from that quarter. But yeah, no, that's a very good point about Jupiter and
Venus.
Venus being sextile at the time. Really nice.
Yeah. Well, they're our most benefic planets, so I always try to look to where they are. If you're going to have
always
help,
a good thing.
It's from them. Yeah.
Yeah. When it's dark, look for stars. Yeah. The North Node very close to Uranus at the time. So kind of the unexpected, expect the unexpected a little bit. It's not making like a close degree aspect to anything really there, but just the fact that the North Node is close to Uranus at that time. I mean, it's 4 degrees away. It's not hugely close, but yeah, it's just interesting.
Yeah. Well, these times there's a whole bunch of, new and abrupt, shocking things that are going on in the world in general. I definitely feel that Uranus is definitely trying to be heard.
we hear you, we see you, pipe down.
We know you're there.
I was just looking too, because you were saying that the benefics, Jupiter and Venus, are sextile by degree. And I was just looking, I see our malefics are also sextile, or just about. At the time of the new moon, Mars will just move past sextile to retrograde Saturn. So, and we spoke about that in the last episode, so I'll put a link to that. It can be quite interesting. So yeah, it might be a very interesting new moon.
A lot of energy. So we just have to pick the energy. If we're prepared for what's coming, we can use it to our advantage for good purposes, as opposed to, not good purposes.
That Mars sextile retrograde Saturn at the time, we spoke about how that could be quite productive, but that things might take longer than we anticipated because Saturn's kind of distracted by being retrograde. It's going back over old ground. So yeah, that kind of ties in with that Jupiter square the new moon. I think, yeah, these plans, these new beginnings that you want to form might just take a little bit more effort and a little bit more time than you anticipate. Doesn't mean that it can't come together though.
Right. Yeah. And you can use the malefic planets. Like, as I was just telling you earlier, we had a huge burn pile that we were able to burn it and get rid of it, appeasing Mars and Saturn. So so yeah, if you know what energies are out there and you can try to work with them to have them do the best good. Yeah, a big fire was exactly what we had, and it was perfect.
Yeah.
A lot of water in the area. Rain before, rain after.
Yeah.
So if you're prepared for the energies that are coming, you can use them to your advantage.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So with that being said, are you ready to get into?
Yep, just let me swap it out. So if you are a Cancer ascendant, this new moon is happening in your first house, which is all about you. So this is your health and vitality. So perhaps you're wanting to take more care of your health, your fitness, your just general well-being. It's also our appearance. So, it could be a good time to buy new clothes. You might be wanting to kind of revamp your look a little bit, or it could be something to do with how others perceive you. You might, it's about image and personality and that sort of thing. So maybe you're just kind of revamping how you appear to the outside world.
Wonderful. Yeah, a lot of changes to your own person.
Mm-hmm.
With it being in your second or your first house. And if you're a Gemini, this is going to be happening in your second house. And this has a lot to do with your finances, your personal finances, or what you find or what you need to sustain yourself, or, to live, has a lot to do with the second house. And the new moon is going to, you're going to be starting something. Maybe you could start a portfolio, or meet up with your, get your finances in order, and that kind of banking stuff that you have to do. Might be a good time to address all those issues that you've got going on, especially if you're a Gemini rising.
And if you're a Taurus rising, this new moon will be happening in your third house. Your third house involves your siblings. So it could be something that's new and exciting, new plans being laid regarding siblings, or it could be just a sibling themselves. It is also communications, it's transportation, it's our local area. So there could be, new things afoot in those, in your local neighborhood, or it could be something like a short course, not a university course or anything like that. That would be ninth house.
And if you are an Aries, this is going to be happening in your fourth house. So if you have, these are changes to your house. You could start new projects for your home, which looks like a pretty good idea to do. I'm looking at that. My mom's an Aries and she's trying to do her kitchen, get her kitchen done. So this might be a good time to that'll finally, get everything will come together. Especially with Jupiter and Mars in your first house. Yeah, this would be time for, so it has to do with, your either your own home or where you come from, your lineage. You might want to, decide to, investigate your lineage, your parents, your generational, the where you come from, for the genealogy and stuff like that. That would work. A fourth house issue.
And if you are a Pisces ascendant, this is happening in the fun house, the fifth house. So this is children. So it could be new events happening with children. They could be starting out on something new. It could also be related to creativity or hobbies, socializing. It also is a house of romance. So there could be romance, a new romance for some people. And yeah, just fun activities. So this is a really nice house to have new beginnings in.
I would watch out, because that Neptune is in the first house as well. So you might, if you're gambling, because that's the gambling house, you might want to be real sure where your boundaries are.
Well, yeah, and Saturn in the 12th house for them as well, the house of their undoing. So yeah.
That could be a setup to so just be careful of that. But yeah, I do like that. You can start new things with in that fifth house. I like that. It is the house of fun.
It is. I like the fifth.
Well, yeah. It's where your games come from. I mean, gambling, it's not just gambling like for money, but I mean, it would, it does have a lot to do with gambling, but I don't know why you couldn't do, regular board games and.
Oh yeah, anything that you enjoy. It's what brings you joy. It's the house of Venus, and it's very Venus-like in the topics. Yeah.
Inclusive. And if you are a Aquarius, this is going to be happening in your sixth house. This would be a good time to, if you are inclined to, get a job where you would be of service to others, this would be a good job for that. If you are concerned about your health, this might be a good time to take up a new health regimen, whether it's, always to remember to take your vitamins, or, whatever you do for health. It would be a good time to start something like that. Start a habit that you can really get into, because that Saturn in your first house, of what we're doing for ourselves, might give you some stability for that.
Yeah, they often say that Saturn in the first kind of can help you lose weight. And, when Saturn was in my first house, what happened? Jupiter was there at the same time. And Jupiter wanted to expand. So, yeah. But, yeah. And then if you're a Capricorn ascendant, This will be happening in your 7th house of your closest one-on-one relationships. So this is all sorts of relationships. It's business partnerships, it's romantic relationships, it's close friends, and it can also include client relationships. If you're in a profession where you're dealing one-on-one with clients quite closely, that can also be included in the 7th house. So new beginnings, it could be a new relationship, or it could be a new stage in a relationship, because we were talking earlier about the 5th house, how that's the house of romance. The 7th is a little bit more stable or secure, or a little bit more mature than kind of just the casual dating. It's a, you know, there's a form of a relationship there. There's that closeness and that. So your relationship could be setting out on something new there. You could be starting something new with a partner, whether that's a new business, or it could be anything like that. You know, you could be starting something new with a partner or with a close friend. Also the house of open enemies. So it could be a new enemy, but hopefully not. But yeah, just remember, you know, with that square to Jupiter and that, you know, it might take longer than you anticipate, but you know, good things take time.
Well, at least you're aware of it, that Jupiter is, you know, it's that tension, you know, at least you're aware of it. Yeah. And if you have Sagittarius as a rising sign, this is going to happen in your eighth house, and this has to do with the finances of other people. So it could be other people,
could be new financial agreements, or
with others.
Yeah, with others.
Yeah, or your spouse's finances.
Yeah. And if you are a Scorpio ascendant, this new moon is happening in your 9th house. This is a house associated with broadening your horizons. That can be through higher education or travel, or exposure to other beliefs or cultures, religion, philosophy, esoteric subjects. So there might be new beginnings to do with one of those topics. And yeah. Maybe you're traveling, maybe you're planning to travel, maybe you just met somebody that's from a different country or different culture. And it's also publishing in the law. So, you know, it could be something to do with one of those matters as well.
Yeah. And if Libra is your rising sign, this would be a good time. This is going to be happening in your 10th house. So to get a new job, this would probably be a good time to either start that or go out searching for it. I'm just giggling because my daughter is Libra rising, and she's starting her new job during this lunation. So
oh, very nice.
It works perfectly. Yeah. So yeah, you'll find out that if you're a Libra rising, a new job or a new position in a job might be what's coming your way.
Could be a new boss too. Yeah, because it's the house of authorities. So yeah, interesting. And if you are a Virgo ascendant, this new moon is happening in your 11th house. So this is groups, friends, alliances, those that help you. It's income from the job, so could be a new source of income. It is also our hopes and dreams or our ambitions. So it could be something as simple as meeting new friends or making new friends, joining a group. It could be, you know, taking the first steps to, you know, achieve that dream or ambition that you've been working towards.
I like that. Yeah. It'll be good times if you're a Virgo ascendant. If you're a Leo ascendant, this is going to be happening in your 12th house. And this house has got a bad rep. It's the house of bad spirit in the theme of Monday. And this is the house of the hidden enemies or your self undoing. So you could start doing things that, you know, are not good for you, or you could be secluding yourself. This is also the house of seclusion, you know, going away and cutting yourself off. So this might be a time where you're wanting to work, you know, finishing up a book or, you know, something that you have to work quietly and independently on.
Yeah, working behind the scenes, yeah. And as you said, hidden enemies,
Yeah.
as opposed to your open ones in the seventh.
Yeah.
It always amuses me that the seventh house of marriage is also the house of open enemies.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Hopefully separate.
Well, if you're going to argue with anybody, it's going to be your spouse. more commonly than, you know, the average other person. Well, they're in your face more. So the aspects that we have coming on for this lunation, the first one's going to be in June 28th. We've got it. That's going to be probably the biggest day, I think, of all the all the aspects, because the first thing we have is Neptune is stationing.
Mhm.
You know, so Neptune is the planet of unclear boundaries. So with it stationing, it's going to be even more unclear, or things that you thought were clear are not turning out to be as clear.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's like you said, it doesn't have those boundaries. It's just kind of almost limitless, and it's dissolving and just very nebulous, it's hard to see.
Ethereal, dreamy.
Well, it can be romantic and idealistic, and it's associated with like the silver screen movies and photography and all that sort of thing. So, you know, it's not all negative, and I mean that dreamy kind of blissed out state, certainly. But yeah, there's also the negative, like, you know, deception, lying, or delusion, self-delusion. What am I not seeing? So, but with the planet slowing down, it's going to get really slow, because I mean, it's a slow planet anyway. It takes about 14 years to get through a sign. I'm not sure how many more years it has in Pisces. It's going to station retrograde. Is it on actually the 28th that it's stationing?
Yeah, it'll first start stationing the 27th, because that's a red station, I think. So it's maybe a few days before, maybe like the day before.
Yeah. And it's going to be retrograde for about 5 months. Neptune's retrograde for about 5 months every year. And during that 5-month period, it's only going to move backwards about 3 degrees, back to about 22 degrees. So wherever you have Pisces in your natal chart is an area of your life, the topics associated with that house might have you kind of questioning things. It's like, I thought I believed this, or I thought I knew this, but here comes Neptune, and it's like, really? Do you? You know, just kind of
blur that
whispering
line.
to your ear. And it can do that. And Donna and I were talking about this a little bit earlier. I was looking at this book, Retrograde Planets by Erin Sullivan, and she was saying that it can do that. But I think it really probably needs to be aspecting a natal planet for you to really feel it. I mean, all the planets, like from Jupiter out, are retrograde every year for, you know, usually 4 or 5 months. So this happens, you know, this is half of the time these planets are retrograde. So, and I mean,
yeah, you don't feel them as deeply as you feel when Mercury's in retrograde.
Yeah, yeah. But then again, you know, Mercury's retrograde 3 times a year for like 3 weeks, and then we add in the extra time for the shadow period. But I mean, Mercury is just kind of like those snafus and that. I think these trans-Saturnian planets, they're kind of like probably deeper, more internal issues. You know, you're not grappling with, oh, you know, the phone has stopped working or my car broke down. It's kind of like, what is the meaning of life? You know, do I really, like, for example, in this chart, Neptune's in the second house, you know, that person might be dealing with, oh, you know, do I own my possessions or do my possessions own me? That sort of thing could be going on. But yeah, unless it's happening over a natal planet, you might not feel it as much. So if you have planets from, say, 20 to about 27 degrees of Pisces, you probably be like a little bit confused at this time. But that also applies for those degrees, 20 to 27, if you've got planets there in Neptune in Virgo or Sagittarius or Gemini as well, because they're opposite and square those degrees. Yeah. But, you know, you've got your sextiles and your trines as well. So if you've got planets anywhere from, you know, 20 to 27, you might be feeling this during this time.
For sure. I like that, or wondering if what you actually think are your possessions aren't necessarily, or do they own you? That is really good. Pick up on that one.
You know, and I mean, like, for example, if it was in your 7th house, so if you were, say, a Virgo ascendant, this would be happening in your 7th house, you know, so that can be kind of really, like we were saying, you know, Neptune, it can be idealistic and romantic, and it could be like, oh, you've had this fantastic time with your partner or significant other, but it can also be deception and disillusionment. So, you know, this could be a time where it's like, oh, you know, they're not that great after all, or, you know, or maybe you just might be rethinking things. It's hard to say. But from what I can gather from this book, and to be honest, I've only just skimmed it, it makes you reevaluate, or it can kind of come along and kind of makes you unsure of what you were sure of.
Question everything.
Yeah. But not in a kind of come up and shove you and kind of say, hey, like Uranus does, or kind of in a traumatic way like Pluto does, but like kind of like that, you know, like when people kind of like, there's just these whispers, and, you know, it's just kind of like, it's a feeling more than anything, I would imagine. But maybe I'm just getting a bit woo-woo. I've got Mercury in Pisces, so I get like that sometimes. But yeah.
Could be. So moving on to the next aspect, we have the sun squaring Jupiter. We talked about this, you know, because Jupiter is squaring the whole, you know, unit of the new moon, the moon and the sun. But the sun squaring Jupiter, you know, the other aspect could be power struggles with you know, or the need to want power.
Interesting. Yeah.
With Jupiter and the sun, or spending more than you should.
Yeah, Jupiter does like to be a little bit extra, doesn't it?
Extravagant. Jupiter likes to be extravagant. And so when you've got the sun in there to shine it, that can happen.
I kind of, you know, you've got that new moon, so new beginnings, new starts. I think that square is kind of being a little bit overly optimistic. You know, you've got these grand plans, but, you know, maybe it's going to come as a bit of a shock, just what's involved. It's interesting when you were talking about Jupiter just before, it reminded me that Jupiter can be a little bit, I want to say condescending, but kind of a little bit snooty and a little bit kind of holier than thou, or like that they know better. It can be a little bit like that at times. It's in Aries, which I don't necessarily think of Aries as being a sign that's like holier than thou or anything like that, but they are a hothead and they could think that they know better. So it just makes me wonder, like with some of these new beginnings, it might be almost a reaction to, well, I'm going to show them, you know, they've been told, or, you know, somebody wants them to do something a certain way. It's, well, I know better. I'm going to start it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to show them. And, you know, maybe they will. But yeah, it's, you know, but I mean, it's a benefic. It's a greater benefic. It's not going to be overly malefic, I don't think. But, you know, there can be that kind of superiority complex.
Absolutely.
Or on the other end, kind of, you know, underestimating how much is going to be involved.
Moving on, we can go with the aspect of Jupiter is going to sextile Venus, which is a really nice aspect, because you have two of the benefic planets, you know, in conversation with each other. I like it. I like it for health reasons. If you're going to do something, anything that you're going to do for a positive, you know, result, is a good thing to do it when you've got both the both of the benefics, you know, talking to each other in conversation. So I do layouts with those as well. I would do anything that you know would be a positive, like even getting married. You know, you would want the two positive things happening in conversation.
Yeah. And I mean, that's a fun, they're in fun signs too. They're in young, active signs. Jupiter in Aries and Venus in Gemini. Yeah, so it's a nice, fun activity. We're talking previously about that Jupiter square the new moon and how that could be problematic, but Donna brought up that, you know, Venus is there to kind of help kind of soften or bonify that Jupiter. And it is in the house, it's in inversion to the new moon. So the new moon kind of can't see it. It's kind of got blinders on. But, you know, it could be like outside help that you kind of weren't expecting, or unexpected help, perhaps. But yeah, Jupiter, Venus, it's a nice combination.
Yeah. And a sextile, you know, that kind of an aspect is always beneficial. And so the next one we have a couple days later, July 1st, and that is Mars is squaring Pluto. And that can be, you know, major boom. You know, if you have dreams that you want to, you know, push forward, this is a good aspect to have with that. You know, with the Pluto is transformational, Mars gives you that drive. This would be a good day to advance your dreams.
Yeah, not necessarily going to be easy though. You know, it is a square, so it's tense and it's causing friction, but sometimes we need those squares and oppositions to actually make us move. The sextiles and trines can be very, very comfortable, but sometimes, you know, you're going to, you know, get up and do something, you need to be made a little bit uncomfortable. So yeah.
Right. Yeah. You don't move your hand off of the hot pot unless until you feel pain. Not that this is going to be, you know, painful, but you do move when you're motivated by a square or by a tension.
Yeah, it's really hard to say. It will depend on everybody's individual chart. But yeah, this is tense. Could be quite explosive. Mars is an Aries, which is a combative sign. It's combustible. It's, you know, quick flare-ups. That Pluto is transformative. It could be just niggling aggression, or it could be, you know, you can take this job and shove it. It just depends. But definitely tension, potential to be quite explosive. But, you know, like Donna was saying earlier, if you know the energies of the planet, sometimes that can help. You can kind of harness them a little bit. But yeah, if you can put that Mars to some productive use, it might go easy or easier.
Right. It gives you the drive. That Mars is there to, you know, to light that fire under you to get you to move. So hopefully it
Yeah.
moves you in a positive way. That's the key. Is if you can see these planets that, you know, have a malefic tone to them, if you can, you know, start to use that, you know, in a more positive way, you're gonna feel a lot better. You know, getting that
Yeah.
advancement. That's what those planets do.
Yeah. That, yeah, I still don't like it.
Well, there is a reason to be cautious, that's for sure.
Mm. And Pluto's in the superior position. So, yeah,
Yes.
whatever Mars represents in your chart might be, and, you know, depending on what houses it represents in your chart. So that's wherever Aries and Scorpio are in your chart. You know, maybe there's some transformation coming at that time, kind of, not necessarily that you were necessarily looking for it, but it might be happening anyway.
Yes, it's going to happen anyways, because the planets do try to move you into a new lesson almost all the time, almost daily. So let's see. On the next day, we have Mercury is going to trine Saturn. That is a great time for good talk. Saturn is retrograde. I'd be cautious about that. So it's not going to act as you would normally expect Saturn to work, which is be, you know, for being very stable.
Mhm.
I think this might be when you see more of the trickster activity of Saturn, especially when it's, you know, in cahoots with Mercury, with
Oh,
Mercury and Saturn trining.
yeah. I moved it too far forward. I was looking at Pluto.
Yeah.
I'm obsessed. So yeah, Mercury, Saturn, good for planning. Maybe not as good as you would hope because that Saturn is retrograde at the moment. Maybe a good time to go back over old plans that need, you know,
Refining.
yeah. Mercury is very good at getting down to the nitty gritty. So,
Making sure all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, and this has a lot to do with the next aspect we have coming up, and that's going to be Mercury is squaring Neptune. You know, and Mercury is that planet of communication and the process and how everything works. And Neptune is like, you know, let's just wash over it, and, you know, it'll be a broad line, and nothing is too detailed. And that's going to probably cause tension.
Could also even be just deception. Could be somebody actually lying to you.
Yep.
It could be inaccurate news, rumors. It could be even kind of self-delusion. I know I spoke about that with Neptune and the sun not long ago, but, like, you know, Mercury is also our thinking as well as our communications and that. So your thinking might not be as on point as you think. You know, you might be kind of ignoring or not seeing something. So that's something to watch out for. It could just be faulty thinking, and it could be just that you're daydreaming.
Yeah. I mean, it's dreamy and dreamy communication.
Yeah, but I mean, it's a square, so it's going to cause problems. But
It's going to cause
interesting.
probably action.
But interesting that there's that trine at the same time to Saturn. So Mercury wants to get this all nailed down and to have all the details correct. But I think that Neptune's a fly in the ointment.
Well, probably not a good day to, make hard and fast plans, but it would be a good day to lay back and daydream.
Yeah.
I think
So.
that's good energy for that one.
Mhm.
And then, so the next aspect we have is going to be Mars going into Taurus. Okay. And when Mars moves into another sign, this happened last time when Mars moved into Aries, we had a major shooting here in Texas. And I always say anytime a planet moves from, a sign into another one, it's a pretty significant event. And with Mars, it just screams that something could happen with Uranus in that same sign. So something shocking, because anytime a planet is co-present with another one, they kind of get that vibe of whatever's in there. Where with Mars in with Jupiter, it made a big event. This might be more of a shocking, out of the blue kind of event with Neptune. And I know, didn't we do for the Aries ingress, and I said something about water, and was there something in the earth sign, where there was a poisoning of water? I had said, and I'm wondering if, with the food, I associate Taurus with the food and the land. You put
I do
Mars in
remember
there.
that now. Yeah.
So we had a big formula shortage, like baby formula shortage, with the water and the poisoning. And
we heard about that here. Actually, I believe one of our big companies have sent formula over for you.
Well, our babies appreciate it, because when you have a baby that can't eat
exactly,
dairy products, and you need formula, it's you can't, babies typically just don't eat like 10 different things. That's it. They only eat one thing. It's crazy. So with the Mars and the and Taurus, just that gives me bad vibes.
Donna was talking about a planet being co-present with a planet, so it's in the same sign. It's like they're in the same house. You might have different rooms, might be a big house. It's 17 degrees away at the moment, but sometimes they're going to both be in the kitchen at the same time. But that's what that co-present is. Mars is in detriment in this sign. It's ruled by Venus, and Venus is kind of like the antithesis of Mars. Venus is all about affection and bringing things together, and love and affection and beauty, whereas Mars is about war and violence and action. And so Mars isn't as comfortable as certainly not as comfortable as he was in Aries when he was running around having fun. Now he's in Venus's lair. Reminds me of, I believe there's a famous painting of Mars with Venus, and he's how can I put this? I think he's resting after having had some fun with Venus. But it's Venus, particularly Taurus. Taurus is a very sensual, and it can be very slow, and these aren't things that we associate with Mars. Mars is not in his element here, so
which can be a good
that doesn't mean that he can't work, but he's going to have to watch his P's and Q's. He's going to have to put on a nice suit. He can't have his fighting uniform on. He's got to be presentable, and he's got to kind of behave, and it's it's not comfortable for him.
Yeah. No.
Which is going to be interesting, particularly getting up to that conjunction with Uranus, which must be later next month, I imagine.
Yeah. I would definitely be anticipating some kind of shocking, separating, burning thing going on.
Yeah. And like, this isn't like where he can act kind of to his own accord. He's constrained, so it's going to make him cranky. And then, you know, it's just going to be like, I think. So, yeah.
Yeah. And then the other planet on the same day. So, you know, whatever happens with Mars, Mercury is moving into Cancer on the same,
Yeah.
it's happening on literally the same day. So when Mercury is going into Cancer, you know, you're talking, you know, Mercury is all about, you know, the communication. Cancer is the sign of tides and water. Big news, because those Mars and Mercury they're forming into a sextile there.
Yes.
So,
yes.
or they will be certainly soon, but just Mercury going into Cancer. As I always say, journal anytime a planet moves from one sign into another, because those are usually very significant days. Mercury in Cancer, let's see, it's going to be in there with the sun. Not a bad planet to be in the same sign with. And Mercury is never far from the sun anyways, what, 28 degrees from the sun?
Yeah.
So
I
it's
was just looking at that. He's going into the beams, though. He's going under the beams. He's not going to be as visible, because when a planet kind of gets too close to the sun actually kind of just hides it because it's too bright. So Mercury moving into Cancer, this is a cardinal water sign. So water signs tend to be emotional. It's cardinal, so it wants to take action. But it's kind of going to feel like it's not being heard, I think, while it's in this sign. It will actually have its superior conjunction. Looks like it must be around about the time of the full moon. I wonder.
probably, yeah, in about 14 days.
Yeah, so probably around about the time of the full moon, it'll have
It will
its
be
superior
conjunct.
conjunction. So, and it'll be cazimi then, which does tend to kind of give it, some people like to say extra power, but we kind of learned, me and Donna did a horary course, and we learned that cazimi can be very much like a man who's been very sick, and he's kind of come through the worst of it, and now he's kind of on the road to recovery, but he's not necessarily 100% yet. You know, if you've been really sick and you turn that corner, it's like, okay, you're not coughing and whatever it was that, you know, whatever the symptoms were, but sometimes it takes a couple of weeks to get your strength back to what it was if you've been, you know, quite sick. And that's kind of a little bit like that cazimi. So yeah, I think this is going to be, I think, hurt feelings in some cases, you know, feeling like people aren't listening to you because, you know, it's going to be under the beams for a long time. Maybe a good idea, probably, when is this? This is the 5th, maybe round about mid-month, or whenever that cazimi is. Great ideas, perhaps. But yeah, maybe don't expect everyone to cheer and think you're, you know, some
That you have the
genius or
formula.
something.
You may not
Yeah.
have the formula, or people might not think that you have the formula.
It might take till it gets far enough away from the sun, though it should be moving pretty quick, so maybe it won't take that long to get out from under the beams. And
yep. And then and right after that, the aspect that it's going to make is Mercury is sextiling Mars. So that is aggressive speech. That could be one of them. It could also be a drive to get a process done. If you're working on like how to do, erect a building, you first you put the floor in, then you put the walls up, and then you put the ceiling on. You can't,
Mm.
Mercury is going to help with the process.
That Mars is going to give that quick thought, but that Mars is kind of lazy in Taurus. He's kind of like, and Mercury's under the beams. It's kind of like, nobody cares, nobody listens.
Or hurry up and plant and watch it grow.
Yeah. If you've got great ideas at this time, try not to let it discourage you. You might not feel like you have the energy to kind of follow through on it, but nobody says that you necessarily have to do it right now. Hopefully take your time, bide your time till Mercury's out from under the beams.
Yeah, well, it is moving direct.
Yes, and it will be moving fast.
And so the next aspect that we have is Mercury is going to square Jupiter.
Wow, that's quite a few days afterwards. What's that? 4 days afterwards.
Yeah.
So Jupiter must be really slowing down at that stage, because that's the degree it's going to station. So that's really interesting too.
Oh, yeah. Because whenever a planet is changing a direction, is significant, and then when it's aspecting a planet in another, it's the planet that it's aspecting is trying to say, hey, don't forget my message. It's like across the room. It's like, while you're going to go retrograde, remember I said this.
Yeah, I think this fits in with the theme of Mercury feeling a bit put out that nobody's listening to it. Yeah, that Jupiter is kind of going to be lacking a little bit of enthusiasm, I think. In a normal situation without either of them being retrograde, I would think this would be pie in the sky thinking. It's a great idea, but it doesn't actually have you're not necessarily willing to do the work, or you're too optimistic. It's, you're thinking everything's going to be cruisy, and it's not. And yeah, I think Mercury's going to be a little bit, I want to say depressed, but I think just feeling unvalued, not heard. And that Jupiter, I think, it's slowing down. It's in Aries, so it's pretty sparky, but I think it's going to lose some of that enthusiasm. And
that Bree is aggressive as Mars has been.
Yeah, well, Jupiter's kind of Jupiter retrograde. I mean, and it isn't retrograde quite yet, so maybe at this time it will be over enthusiasm. Like you have this great idea, and you think, oh my God, that's brilliant, and I'll do that, and da 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 da. But then later on, after Jupiter does station retrograde, which I think we said was the end of, was it July? End of the month. By the time it stations retrograde, maybe you've run up into a couple of obstacles, and, maybe something else needs your attention. The enthusiasm, the optimism, the even generosity associated with those thoughts might just need to take a back seat.
Yeah.
I'm kind of depressing, aren't I?
It's gonna be interesting. You have, these are the energies, and how you decide, how you're gonna play them is, actually what the whole episode's about. I mean, you have these energies coming at you, and you can either, get ready to lay out the blanket and stretch out in the sun and enjoy the day, or put that drive and get the Jupiter and Mercury working together and do something big. It's,
and I mean, this is going to be different for everybody. It's not going to be exactly the same. These are the energies happening at the time, but in your individual chart, it's going to be in different houses. And then if you've got like planets at these degrees. So for example, that Jupiter is going to be on my sun, so it's probably going to affect me. Like, have you got anything at 8 degrees Aries or
No.
Cancer? So it'll probably affect me more than Donna, for example. So yeah, it's, you know, it's probably what, maybe a day or two that it will be an effect for everybody. And like I said, it will depend on where it is in your chart. But if it's aspecting a natal point in your chart or a natal planet, it's probably going to be much more like, oh, that's what that means. Or like,
Yeah.
oh, that was fun, you know.
Right, right. Because your chart is your natal promise. So if these planets are, you know, trying to make contact with your natal chart, it's going to impact you, you know, more. And it might be your time to, you know, enjoy the sun, or it might be your time to get something done. You know, it's so it really, it does depend. And if you do have, like Lynda said, if you have planets that are, you know, at those degrees, you're going to feel it way more than anybody else.
I'm just looking too that Uranus is getting closer to that North Node as well too, so that surprise element is getting closer
bigger
as well.
Getting bigger. So
Yeah.
the next one is, you know, the next one is the sun sextiling Uranus.
Yeah, that's kind of fun.
That will be, I would suspect, more shocking. I would, or new ways. You know, with somebody was saying that oh, I was it Chris Brennan a while back when Uranus first went into Taurus, about new foods. Yeah, I would think, you know, that would be a time to do, you know, the new foods or new ways of making foods. We're losing, well, I was going to go into our other news. We're losing a lot of birds here with avian flu. They've had to kill like entire farms of birds, and it's horrible. But I wonder if anything's going to happen with that, you know, or there's going to be some news with that, because, you know, Taurus is known for, you know, the land and things that come from the land. So that's what made me think of the land.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting. For example, like one of my daughter's vegan, has been for probably, I don't know, 5 or 6 years, and I've got another kid that kind of sometimes vegan, you know, and it's amazing, even over these past 6 or 7 years, just since I've, you know, been observing that and just hearing them talk about it, how much variety there is in vegan foods these days. Once upon a time it was so much more, and now it's, they can get ice cream and kind of custard and all these things, which is really good, you know, when you're having family celebrations and that, you know, they can have those things. But, you know, if meat and or birds and all that sort of thing, if a lot of these things are kind of not available, you know, these, what do they call it, plant food things might need to be, maybe more of us will be eating it, not because we choose to be vegan, but because, you know, our options are lower or less or
Could
fewer.
be.
I can never get that right. Is it fewer or less? I don't know.
Could be. That's just one of the things with the sun sextiling Uranus. But Uranus has a lot to do with that shock and surprise, and so I would not be shocked or surprised to you know, have more abrupt things happening in your life.
Yeah, I'm hoping that sextile is a little bit more positive. We've spoken in the past about how sometimes sextiles and trines just make it easier for the outer planets to kind of cause mischief, kind of takes away the barriers, makes it easier for them. But I'm thinking this is kind of, you know, just being open to change. looking for something a little bit more innovative. This is only going to last a day or so. You know, maybe shaking your routine up a little bit.
Yeah, that would be the energy of Uranus for sure.
But you know, that North Node is getting very close to that Uranus, so that's a little bit concerning.
Yeah. And then we have what the following day is Venus trines Saturn, and then Mercury will sextile Uranus. And we'll have the full moon. So do we want to say that that's going to be the full moon in Capricorn?
Yeah. Well, let's do Venus trine Saturn first.
Okay.
So I think that can be positive. It's possibly good for relationships. That Saturn is retrograde, which does complicate matters a little bit. But I think it kind of brings some stability to relationships.
Yeah, it offers self-control.
Yeah, this isn't a madly romantic aspect. This is companionship. You know, this is the long term.
Mature love. It's that,
yeah,
it's that stick-to-itiveness. Saturn is in a fixed sign. Venus is in a friendly, flirty sign.
She certainly is. But you know, that doesn't mean that she might not appreciate someone a little bit more stable. You know, Saturn is retrograde though, so
yeah. So I have do you have any more to add to that? Because I do have a stone. Okay, the stone I have is a rainbow moonstone.
ooh.
This is a feldspar mineral. It's actually a potassium aluminum silicate, and it's the crystal system is prismatic and monoclinic. So it's a Mohs hardness of a 6 to a 6.5. It's a feldspar, and you can kind of see well, actually, here's a tumble one. They have kind of like a glisten, or here's a peach moonstone, which all right, they're for balance, the moonstones, obviously, because the moon is in charge of balancing the tides here. This is a really cool one. This is gray, but it's kind of got that, it's almost like labradorite has how it's built is in like layers, and so you're actually looking at the layer below the surface.
Really pretty. You said it had a Mohs hardness of 6.5 to 7 or something. That means it's quite hard, doesn't it?
Yeah, to a 6 to a 6.5. Yeah, I think this is my first ever moonstone that I ever got. You can kind of see it's almost like it's like the layer underneath, and this can be found in Burma, Australia, India, the United States, Madagascar, and Sri Lanka. It works with the intuition and balance. So this is a tumbled rainbow moonstone, but you can almost catch that blue. That and what you're looking at is like underneath, because it kind of almost forms like in layers, a lot like a labradorite. This has it. You can almost see the layers.
Yeah,
like how this one particularly formed. But that is the moonstone. And I thought, for full moon in Cancer would be a great time to do a moonstone. So that's what I have. It works with the wind element that the rainbow moonstone works with the second in the crown chakra. The other ones, like if you do the that's peach moonstone.
Mm-hmm.
I have a couple of them.
Mm-hmm.
And they're more of that peachy color. Those I would do more for the, sacral and, balancing the female hormones. That would be the other thing, is female hormones with the moonstone. That one it's prettier. It's prettier than this is showing.
Yeah.
But yeah. And I will have an article ready
Excellent.
that you can put in the description.
In the description. Mm-hmm.
Yes, because I have them all photographed. That's my biggest thing, is taking a picture, finding a place to take a picture.
Yeah.
But yeah, because I want to give you guys, with the sense of what they do look like. But that is the moonstone.
Excellent. And that's the end of our episode. So, Miss Donna, where can people find you?
You can get a hold of me at my website, donnabarrconsulting.com. That would lead you to my email address is donnabarrconsulting@gmail.com. You can get a hold of me either way, or on Facebook. I'm there as well. So yeah, that's probably the best way. If you need to get a hold of me like quickly, because if you need to get a hold of me quickly, I at least check my Facebook, try to at least once a day. But like if I do horary, electional, as I was saying, when I do crystal layouts for supportive healing, and yeah, natal readings year in advance. I do those.
Yeah, that's a lot, isn't it? Yeah.
And how can people get a hold of you, Lynda?
I'm at Scallywag Astrology. That's astrology.scallywag.com. I've always got to stop and think about that. I'm on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. And yeah, I'm doing natal readings. I'm doing relationship readings and year ahead. So yeah.
Awesome. Well, that sounds like a great month that we have, or fortnight that we have coming up.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting.
It will be. Thank you very much for tuning in. And if you like the content, please share, like, subscribe, and all those help us. Comment.
Or comment. Yeah. Yeah, that would be good. I was thinking about that and thinking what we should ask them to comment. Actually, maybe if you know what your ascendant is, or if you don't, like Donna said, you can contact Donna or me, and we can let you find out what the ascendant sign is. And that way, when you listen to your horoscope, it just makes it so much more accurate.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening. Bye.